Hello, Dragoon. I mentioned that I wanted some laws to be changed, and I'd like to talk about one that I think should be changed. Specifically, it's in the United States Code, Title 18, Crimes and Criminal Procedure, Part 1, Crimes, Chapter 44, Firearms, Section 922, Unlawful Acts. And here it is. It's not the longest law in the book, but it is annoyingly long. And it starts off pretty fine. I have no problem with most of the stuff in it. It begins talking about who you can ship firearms and ammunition to and stuff like that. All pretty sensible. However, how this law treats imported rifles is a little bit weird. So, I hope you'll have the patience to just kind of sit back and let me take you on a hypothetical journey as I buy a paratrooper model SKS. So, I buy the SKS, and in its current form, it's perfectly legal. But I get it home, and I realize that the front sight post is bent. And when I change that front sight post, I have changed an original imported part. Now this gun is illegal. That sounds pretty strange. I only replaced the part, but that was one of the original parts. I'm changing it. I'm modifying the rifle. Now this law applies to it. And what this law essentially does is that it gives me a list of parts, a list of 20 parts. And out of those 20 parts, you can only have 10 that are imported parts. So you have to change these parts until 10 or less of them are imported parts. Now, right off the bat, I was wondering why when I heard about this law, and I'm still wondering why. I have no idea what the motivation for this really is. So, there is quite a bit of help for me to make my SKS legal. For instance, the Gun Wiki has this useful little tool that you can check things on and off with, and they even have a section of that tool just for SKSs. And TAPCO and ATI are your friends when it comes to this. So, we have an SKS in essentially the condition that it was imported in, just with one change. So it has these parts, and it's illegal. I did mention that it was a Chinese SKS, so I can uncheck this. It doesn't have the grenade launcher of the Yugoslavian model. But we still need to get this under 10. Well, 210 or under 10. So, I can't change the receiver or the barrel. No one in America makes those for the SKS. I can't change the bolt or the bolt carrier because no one in America makes those for the SKS. If people in America did make those 4 items for the SKS, then at that point we could just make completely American-made SKSs and avoid all of this hassle anyway. The gas piston I can replace, and that's a $40 fix, but that's one part, so might as well do that. That's something. Something easy. Something easy. This law includes the magazine foreplate, follower, and body as 3 different items for most weapons. Somebody in the ATF or who was writing this law understood that the magazine body and foreplate are actually one part for the SKS as it's imported. So changing out a magazine will only actually get you 2 parts. So we changed to an American-made magazine. That still leaves me with 1 part left that I need to change, and this is where things get a little bit window shoppy. Well, there's the hammer, sear, and trigger. If you change one of those out, though, you might want to change all of them out to a matching set, because these parts wear together. You can do that from Murray's Gunsmithing. They make this nice set. although it's a little bit pricey and slightly more pricey if you order online than if you order through the mail for whatever reason. Okay, so maybe we'll do that, but let's look at what else we can do. Well, the stock and handguard, just like the trigger, sear, and hammer, are made to fit each other. You know, they're made to match. And even though that's just aesthetic, it'd be a shame to change one out without changing the other out too. So let's see what we can do about that. As I mentioned, Tapco and ATI are our friends in this endeavor. So here at Tapco we have some stocks. Really, it's just one stock 4 times. But okay. I've got the, as I mentioned, this is this model, which has a spike bayonet. So we're going to want to go with the spike bayonet version. And this is a nice stock. It works, you know. It's got some things that I don't like the pistol grip. I don't have a problem with pistol grips or anything. I just don't want a pistol grip on my SKS. It's got a collapsible stock, an adjustable one, not something that I've ever felt was comfortable. I've never met an adjustable stock that I liked. So maybe not this stock. It also has this rail up here, which would interfere with my view of the rear sight. So yeah, I think I can pretty well say no to that stock. And that's the only one that Tapco makes, so I guess I'll go to ATI. Hey, a variety, at last. We'll start with the Monte Carlo stock, because honestly, a Monte Carlo stock is a very classic design. Usually you find it in wood, and it's much prettier in wood, but you don't want to pay that sort of price for an SKS stock anyway. It's a cheap old Soviet rifle to begin with. How much money do you want to dump into it? So it's a very functional stock. There's just one issue that I have with it, and that's that this cheek swell on this side. I'm left-handed, and while I can lay my cheek just fine on this side, this swell right here gets in the way of my palm when I'm trying to handle the rifle. And if I can't get a good grip on the rifle, that's, well, actually kind of dangerous. So, for the reason that I'm left-handed, the Monte Carlo stock is out, even though I like it. Come on, go back. There you go. The Strike Force SKS stock. Ooh, that looks cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, all the guys on the zombie forum are gonna love that. Now, this is a pretty nice stock. It doesn't have the obstruction to there. It does have the pistol grip, but at least it looks like a nice pistol grip. It has the adjustable stock, but, you know, maybe I'll like that one. I've never given that one a try. Maybe I will. The only problem is that this is a side-folding stock. And when you look at short-barreled rifles, that's anything with a barrel under 16 inches or an overall length under 26 inches. The barrel length is already 16 inches. From the back of the receiver to the front of the barrel is like 25 inches. So if this length right here is less than an inch, and I think it's more than an inch, but if it's not, then that gun would suddenly become illegal under a completely different law. And honestly, it's a law that I'm sure the ATF would want people to take a little bit more seriously. I doubt they'd put it that way. This is not legal advice. So that leaves us with this Fiber Force SKS stock. And I gotta say, finally I find something that's not terrible for my needs. It's a simple stock. I think this cheek comb that's adjustable is the same on both sides, so it shouldn't matter that I'm left-handed. The grip is a bit pistol grippy, but I hope I could get used to it. So far, it is the simplest and most utilitarian stock. Okay, so now let's come back over to here. I hope you're still with me. And we can either change those 3 parts or change these 2 parts. Now either way, it hasn't been so much of a hassle to make this gun legal, but do any of these changes actually make the gun safer in any way? They certainly don't. There is actually a change that you can make to the SKS to make it safer from this same Murray's Gunsmithing. For SKSs, they make firing pins, and the original SKS firing pin looks like this. And occasionally, if the firing pin sticks forward, you have a very rare but rather serious problem called a slam fire, where your gun will essentially act as a machine gun until it's either out of ammunition or somehow this firing pin comes dislodged. But this company has just a modified firing pin with a spring to it that solves that problem completely. And all of the changes that I would have to make to go through this 922R law are just delaying me making a change to the rifle that would actually make it slightly safer and address a, well, very rare problem, a rather serious one. So I'm just sort of, I don't really know how to end this, but I think that this law doesn't really help anyone. Its motivation is pretty unclear. I've never heard a good reason for it. And I just think that if enough people got together, that there wouldn't be too much pushback to actually have this part rewritten, because this can in no way save anyone, and it just becomes a hassle and kind of makes a class of gun owner criminals who are simply criminals because they were ignorant of a pretty unknown law. Anyway, I'm wondering how you'll react to this, and I hope that you understand that this sort of thing is just an unnecessary burden. Have a nice day.